what I know in today's world is a non-negotiable is if you're storing your passwords, if you log into your computer and you passwords automatically fill because it's cached in your web browser, you're at risk. What happens is sometimes hackers can be in your system for 120 days. You don't even realize it. And what do you think the first thing they do? They start watching what you're doing. And there's free tools available on the web that even folks like you and me can use to extract the passwords that's stored in your web browser. So boom, 30 seconds, you can get the password. You and I can do that. Okay. So if
Wow.
you and I can do that easily with a password tool that's freely available on the web, they can do it. So what we recommend is using a password manager, and there's so many that are out there. We standardized on one, but there are many great products.
Welcome to the Feria Tech Cast, where we bring all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today, we are joined by Brett Gallant, a cybersecurity expert and founder of Adaptive Office Solutions. With over 25 years of experience protecting businesses from digital threats through multi-layered security assessment and strategic IT solutions, specializing in everything from large construction firms to small technical businesses. Brett brings a customer-centric approach to cybersecurity that focuses on practical, scalable protection. His expertise spans identifying critical security gaps, implementing robust defenses, and helping companies transition from reactive operators to proactive strategic leaders. Today, we'll explore the most critical cybersecurity gaps facing technical businesses, how to build a security-first business model, and why no company is too small to be targeted by hackers. So, Brett, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be here to show up and to help and share what I know to help people be inspired to take action to recognize that cyber security is a risk that we're all responsible for managing. After all, it is your risk.
Amazing. So, to start, can you tell us about adaptive office solutions and what a multi-layered technology assessment look like on practice?
Sure. I'm going to keep it light but effective. So, w- adaptive office solutions, what we look like, we're a small, agile company that helps a number of industries in Canada, specifically right now, Indigenous municipalities, pharmacies, construction. We help them manage their risk. And what that looks like typically is we start off with doing a cybersecurity risk assessment. Most people don't really recognize how vulnerable they are. I actually like to say it's more of a vulnerability findings. And we don't take that lightly, that when we show a company where their vulnerabilities are, their cyber risk, it's really important for us to share that so that they recognize that, hey, we've left the front door open. For example, when we go on vacation, do we leave our doors open? We
Of
lock the
course, we
doors.
don't. Yeah,
Right. And the reality is a lot of businesses unknowingly and some unknowingly are leaving the front doors open. And
hmm,
that's what our cybersecurity risk assessment does. It shows that the owners and the decision makers within the organization, hey, here's where the gaps are. Here's where you've left the door wide open to let somebody into your network or into your email without you even knowing. Sometimes we discover that somebody's been in the network and they didn't know. And that's pretty scary. So a multi-layered approach is the old mindset was that we have antivirus and backup, we're covered, but that's not enough anymore. Multi-layered approach to cyber includes having other elements that are essential today, like endpoint detection response, which is beyond antivirus and managed detection, security operations center, monitoring your Office 365 through SaaS alerts to like um, type of technology to see if somebody is actually a third party has actually gained access to your email. So if somebody gets, for some reason, they bypass your multi-factor authentication and they get in and you don't have the other elements that are recommended, at least you're alerted that somebody did get in. Backups on your workstations, on your servers, and backups on your email. People think, oh, my email's in the cloud, I'm fine. But no. What happens if somebody gets into your email, deletes everything? You want to at least have a backup so you can recover from that. Multi-layer also includes a password manager. A lot of people, when we're doing the risk assessments, we're still seeing this. People are reusing the same passwords and they're simple and they're storing their passwords and saving them on their computer. Wide open. It's like the wild, wild west. Like I said earlier at the beginning, leaving the door wide open. So that's a quick snapshot of what I feel a multi-layered approach. Not one thing is enough. And I can say, even with all of that, no one can promise that you'll never get hacked. Even if you had all the layers, it's still possible. But it's all about minimizing your risk, minimizing the blast field, and having a plan in place that you can recover.
Amazing. So I'd like to quickly talk about these password management. So you talk about how it's unsafe for people to save their passwords on your computer. Say, for example, in a doc file where they copy and paste all the passwords they've used so far, and like using generally simple passwords. So although you said nothing is really safe, and although you take preventive measures, it's still no guarantee that you would not be able to get hacked. So tell us, what are the safer measures which enterprises can manage their passwords to at least minimize the risk of getting hacked?
Um, Really good question. What I think, what I know in today's world is a non-negotiable is if you're storing your passwords, if you log into your computer and you passwords automatically fill because it's cached in your web browser, you're at risk. I want to expand on that for a little bit before I answer your question. What happens is sometimes hackers can be in your system for 120 days. You don't even realize it. And what do you think the first thing they do? They start watching what you're doing, and there's free tools available on the web that even folks like you and me can use to extract the passwords that's stored in your web browser. So boom, 30 seconds, you can get the password. Ezekiel, you and I can do that. Okay. So if
Wow.
you and I can do that easily with a password tool that's freely available on the web, they can do it. So what we recommend is using a password manager, and there's so many that are out there. We standardized on one, but there are many great products, and we believe that having that in place and putting two-factor authentication on that password manager is vital because that's the keys to your digital kingdom. And then oftentimes these password management tools will actually tell you if your password is too weak or if it was in a breach. So it will flag you and say, hey, Mr. Customer, you have 10 passwords that are vulnerable. Your game, and if you want to gamify it, is, hey, this week I'm going to get rid of those 10 passwords, the ones that are really critical, and use my password management tool to make the password more complex and not have any of the passwords be the same. Because really, honestly, if you ask yourself right now, the folks, everyone that's listening, some of you are using a password manager, great. But some of you that are listening, let's be honest with ourselves, you're using the same password. I've seen somebody using password fluffy123. And actually, my favorite password earlier, a number of years ago, with working for a seafood plant, I asked the user what their password was to log in, and she used the same password for her email at the time. The password was incorrect. And she was clever. No one would guess that. I laughed. I had a good laugh about it. It was incorrect. Yeah. But how long do you think it would take for a hacker to crack that password? 30 seconds.
Oh
And then we
wow.
get clever. And then we get clever. We think, okay, I'm going to put incorrect 1, 2, 3 exclamation mark. That doesn't do much. That might give you 2 minutes or so. That's not enough. So using a password manager that adds some complexity to the password can take your password that's encrypted in the password manager vault, and it's not stored on the computer at all. It's stored in a secure vault with two-factor authentication. That password can take up to 200 years to crack with a decryption tool. So it's really vital to be aware of that and thinking about that and saying, hey, if I'm using the same password over and over, all over the place, something's got to change. And it starts with me today, a decision to say, this is my risk. I own it. I got to take action.
Interesting. So tell us, you often say that no business is too small to be hacked. So what's the most common misconception that you see small business owners have about their cybersecurity risks?
Well, that's really good. And I have a story behind this, and it's an unfortunate story. Okay.
Well, tell us.
Okay. Okay. But a lot of business owners say, hey, I'm a small business. It'll never happen to me. They don't want anything to do with me. But that's exactly what they're expecting you to feel because you're leaving. They're saying, oh, they'll never want me. But they take advantage of that. A recent example of a business, while I was away on holiday, somebody I know, their business had an email compromise. And it was really unfortunate. And I suspect that it happened pretty quickly, but I think that they were in their email for up to 30 days or longer because they were just watching to see the right transactions, getting to understand how the money flows. They changed instructions to one of their vendors to wire money that was expected to them to I'm anonymizing the story to protect the business. Because that's important for me. But the story is important for everybody to recognize. They lost $250,000 through a wire transfer that they supposedly authorized. And it was all because somebody got into their email acting as someone in upper management and they approved it. And when you wire money, you don't get it back. Sometimes you do get portions of it. I have another story where that actually happened. The organization had wired, say, equivalent $450,000, and they were able to recover 120,000 of it. That was lucky, very lucky. Devastating because I could feel for the company. That story I just told you about that happened while I was away. Most businesses can't lose that money. It causes them a lot of harm, cash flow issues, and sometimes if they don't have cyber insurance, they're not going to get it back. And if they do have cyber insurance, here's the key thing: they do have cyber insurance, and when the insurance adjusters go to investigate the incident and they find out that you weren't doing the minimum what you agreed to when you submit it for your cyber insurance, they're not going to pay out. So some people are paying for cyber insurance for no reason because they're not doing what they're required to do.
Hmm.
Simple as that.
Okay, that was one hell of a story. Tell us, Brett, what are your what are the most critical cybersecurity gaps that you consistently find small to medium technical businesses when you first start working with them?
Well, the big one is passwords, reuse passwords. Wild West, like the same password over and over and over again. And then some people have had vendors assist them and a lot of third party remote access tools. I've seen a manufacturing facility because of a third-party tool that was not secure. This is a good segue for a story for a second. Their whole production line got hacked, and they had no cybersecurity. And it encrypted the production line. They were down for a week. Now, fortunately, it didn't spread to the rest of the network, and that was just lucky because their network was poorly designed. But 3 days later after the attack, they came back and started going after the accounting server. But because they took action after that and they recognized, oh, we got to do something, because we put in a security operations center and endpoint detection response, we were notified immediately that they were trying to get in. But expanding back onto your question, is outdated Windows operating systems, outdated other operating systems, not enough antivirus or endpoint detection response. Like, there's just sometimes people don't even have antivirus or just the basic Windows. No backups, none. They think they have backups, but a backup without testing is just a dream. A lot of people have dreams. They think they have backups. They paid for backups. But if you're not testing your backups, it's just a wish, just a dream. No recovery plan, outdated firewalls, outdated policies for in one case, we've seen the guest network in place that when allowing their guests to come into their environment, that they were allowing other devices come in, and they can't control those devices. So if somebody comes in with their laptop or device that's infected, and they connect to your network and it's not secure, well, there's gaps that can be exploited. And if you're not patching your systems and you don't have these additional countermeasures on your systems, then you just opened up an inside attack. So those are the big ones that we see.
That was a great response. So you talk about how companies actually need to test their backup, else they would only be dreaming and not really have
Yeah.
a secure backup. So tell us briefly, how do companies actually test their backup ahead of time to be guaranteed that there's actually a reliable backup in case of security issues?
So in simple, we have some automation that tests our backups every night. Okay. And what we do monthly is we actually test to restore to see if it's working. So let's keep it simple for our listeners. You might be working with an IT provider, or you may be doing your backups in-house right now. I want you to pretend tomorrow and say, hey, we lost everything. Let's see if we can restore our accounting database. Let's see if we can restore that file that I rely on, and restore it somewhere else. Just see if it restores. Put it somewhere else and see if it's there. Sometimes when we've seen this, when we've taken over other new clients, they've had a backup in place, which was great. We weren't sure if they were testing it, but one of the gaps we've seen in some cases is in some accounting systems, you have to go a little further to back up a device, especially, and I'm going to get techie for a second, like a SQL database. You have to back up the SQL instance. If you're not doing that, what's the backup for? You can't get the data. You could get it a roundabout sort of way, but it's just a simple click if you did that. So it's really important to just have that mindset that you come in tomorrow and say, hey, I got hacked, or I deleted that whole folder on my computer that I rely on every day. It could be something you do for accounts reconciliation or business plan or whatever it is that it's important to you. Or it could even be some of this are saving marketing or even photos. Is that backed up? Ask whoever's managing your backup, or ask yourself, do I have that? Sometimes people are saying, oh, I'll back it up. I back it up once a week on Friday. But let's be honest with ourselves. Friday at 4:00, a lot of times people are backing up and, oh, I'll do it next week. And then all of a sudden, I'll do it next week is 3 or 4 months since the last time you actually did a backup. So automating it and having it done and checked is important. Just keeping those mindsets, what I shared with you, are so important to test it, because it's really prevalent in our industry that people are not testing it, or they don't even have a backup.
Interesting. Tell us, Brett, how has your approach to cybersecurity had to adapt over the last 25 years to meet the demands of today's digital landscape?
So I've been in this industry for a while, and I remember even as back as in 2000 when I was working for a construction fabrication company, that the person in the sales department went to a website and they got infected. So that's when I realized it's like the person could be doing all the right things. Your weakest link is your employees and what they do and what they click on. So my approach has gotten to be even more serious. Back then, I was thinking, okay, antivirus backup, great, we can recover. But now, from what I know and what I've seen, is I know antivirus is not enough on its own. I've seen antivirus, a injection, just look at it, and the code that the hacker put in, it just looked at a few silly little antivirus, and then all of a sudden that server was encrypted. And I'm sorry to make a joke of it, but it it's the truth. So now I know that staying on the cutting edge and recognizing that these multi-layered and having the security operations center is vital, and having other things like, and I didn't allude to this earlier, but we have another piece in our multi-layered stack that will not allow anything to be installed unless we investigate it. So we keep the computers ring fence, and if we need to actually install an accounting system, an upgrade, our client has to notify us, and we can put the computers in a learning mode that will allow the systems to install. So is it a pain in the butt sometimes? Yes, but I would rather be more secure than be saying, sorry, didn't know about that, didn't think about that. I'd rather have more security than not enough. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, sure would.
Yeah.
So,
So that's how my approach has changed. I really recognize that I can't keep my head stuck in the ground anymore like an ostrich. And that's still unfortunately some of the mindset what some of us are doing. And that only changes sometimes for some people when they get hacked. Remember that story I told you earlier about that happened while I was on vacation?
yeah,
They're still recovering right now, still dealing with it. Do you think they're doing something about their cybersecurity now?
yeah, they sure would.
Hope so. But you know what? You know what? A similar story that happened. I know a business, and I shared about it earlier. They lost us. Remember, I told you they lost a significant amount of money. They decided not to do anything. They really did, and I respect them. It's their business, okay. But I couldn't work with them anymore. Okay, and I love the business. They're great people. A month later, guess what happened to that business again?
They got hacked again.
They had another cyber incident. Yeah. And I never heard of that, but I did hear about that, but it never happened to somebody that I used to deal with, because most people did decide to do something with the risk. So it's really important to think about that story, everyone, because they never thought it would happen to them and they decided not to do anything. And then the cat came back.
Wow. So you have worked with construction and manufacturing companies in the past. So tell us, what's the biggest challenge in scaling security solutions for industries like the construction and manufacturing?
It's coming up with a plan to get everybody on board, and getting management's active participation to really embrace cybersecurity. I never mentioned the other key component is cybersecurity awareness training. It's really vital that everybody participates in the training. Now, does everybody do it? No, but it's important. Scaling and recognizing that, especially since COVID and even before COVID, we have dynamic workforces, and we have different needs where people are working in hotels and working in remote sites, that we protect the endpoints and having a strategy so that when we have people working and moving around, that those devices are protected in their own little bubble when they're in a hotel room or on a construction site, or that your contractor comes in and they use your network, that's secure. And which I shared was earlier is, hey, guest networks, are you allowing everybody on the guest network to be integrated with your corporate?
Yeah, That's amazing. So tell us, for a founder who is not too technical, so what are three simple steps, that simple and actionable steps that they can take to start improving their security?
Okay. Well, one of the things, if you find me on Instagram or LinkedIn, and that we'll put that in the show notes. If you DM me 15 ways, I'll send you a document, 15 ways that you can take actionable steps for your cybersecurity. But the number one thing is I want each and every one of you to have multi-factor authentication on your email. If you don't have it, or if you don't know, find out today. Second, backups. Make sure they're tested and you have everything backed up that's critical. And cybersecurity awareness training, at least take some action, even if you do it on YouTube, and educate yourself and watch a few videos that'll at least make you more aware. Okay. Yeah. And the backups are so important, like testing them. So, and there's so much more in the document. We'll get into that, but these are some really low base hits that anybody can investigate, and should be one of the first few things you do. And as well, I would encourage you all to investigate in leveraging a password manager. Uh, if you're and changing your passwords to something more complex if you're not using it, so that you're not using the same banking password. And some of our banking institutions don't have two-factor authentication, or maybe you have not enabled two-factor authentication on your bank. Do it. Other thing, actually, this is a good banger. This is a good one that everybody should really pay attention to. Write this down, folks. Listen to this. We live in a digital age. A lot of people are doing business through Teams and Zoom and having meetings. And sometimes we're talking about financial things with key stakeholders. Now, I used to say, before you talk about wiring any money with somebody in your company or organization, get them on a Teams or Zooms, because sometimes we're not all in the same location. I've changed that since AI. Okay. Because, hey,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Have we seen AI be able to impersonate us and make a digital
yeah.
avatar of us?
Deep fakes and all.
Absolutely. So this is what I want everyone to do. Have a code word that you don't publish anywhere with your financial people. So that's, you say, hey, Mary, if I get on a Zoom or a Teams meeting with you and I tell you to wire something or change important financial information, don't do it unless you ask me the code word and I give it to you. And don't
Wow.
put it on the computer. Okay. We need to be thinking about that in today's world, especially with deep fake.
Wow. I mean, those are really, really great and thoughtful advice. So, tell us, how does your customer-centric approach directly influence the cybersecurity solutions that you recommend and implement for the companies that are your customers?
Well, everything is done in mind of cyber first. So we will never do something that would compromise a business's cybersecurity. So, and it's to the point where we have clients that say, we're not going to upgrade this computer. We will push back hard, and we will not. I'm a recovering people pleaser. Okay. I rather tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. So we do aim to get a good balance of having the cyber at the right level so it's not annoying, but sometimes there are elements that are just non-negotiable. So we believe in treating our clients the way we want to be treated. So friendly service, speaking to people in English with, like, in non-technical terms, with empathy. We're talking, sometimes people have some bad things that happen. It's not, it's never I gotcha. It's more of a, look, I have some important, especially when we get into, when we're first starting a relationship, or when we're doing the cyber security risk assessment. It's not a, hey, look what I found, I gotcha. No, it's, look what I want you to see what we found. This is really sensitive, and I want you to know, because I want you to understand how much at risk you are. I just want you to understand what could happen. And I've seen this happen before, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer. and this is why. And so it's always with that mindset of serving customer-centric with respect and empathy.
So let's move a bit to the entrepreneurship and self-development part of things. So tell us, what does overcoming self-doubt as an entrepreneur look like on a difficult day, and what's your strategy for pushing through?
So, overcoming self-doubt, I've actually am a poster child for that because I've had a lot of growth, especially over the last few years. Sometimes questioning myself and my own mindset, my own limiting beliefs that I've had before. But what I know, I'm a person who's invested in coaching, and what I do a lot of times is I look back and say, I ask myself, is this true based on the information? And then I look at my prior wins and I say, okay, yeah, I've done this before in a different way. I just got to push through and recognize that this limiting belief sometimes it's this element of fear. We all have, wouldn't you agree we all have fear?
Yeah,
So I look at
deep
it
down we do.
false evidence. Yeah, like so I used to let fear be in the driving seat in my life. So what I've done, especially in the last few years, is I put fear in the passenger seat. It's there to guide me, but no longer is it driving my life. Putting you in the passenger seat, you're there to keep me grounded. But I really think, and I know when you do hard things and you do things that are challenging, everything becomes easy. I used to try to do easy things, but then life got hard. Even my own transformation, my life, I had a pivotal moment in my life where a couple of years ago in October of 23, I was talking to my coach. I said, Dave, I don't have time to get to the gym. And Dave said to me, he said, Brett, you mean to tell me you own your own business and you can't get to the gym? And I told him a few colorful words, um, a swear word. I won't repeat that right now. And he laughed and I laughed. And that's when everything changed. I built accountability and I started prioritizing myself, putting myself first. And I get to the gym, I go for a hike, and I've released 120 pounds since then. I was a lot bigger than what I am today.
Wow, that's quite an inspiring journey. Tell us, Brett, how do you find balance between running a demanding cybersecurity business and also prioritizing personal health and family?
I plan my week. I look at doing time and energy audits, and I have this mindset from just the personal development I've done, and I really heard this so many different ways. And the best way I can say it is who, not how. I read the book from Dan Kennedy, and I invested in the book from Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. So I plan my week, and I try to stay. My goal is to stay in the lane as a visionary leader. My job is more to be speaking to my clients, having a great conversation with you, and prioritizing my time. Now, normally I would do the gym early in the morning, but I'm going to do it in the middle of the day today. Bunch of different reasons. But a non-negotiable for me every day is an hour in the gym and at least an hour and a half for a walk or a hike. And what that does for me, it gives me energy, it gives me clarity, it gives me time to think, and I show up as a better leader for my business, better father, better husband. In fact, I scheduled in the springtime 10 days of rest I took every Wednesday off. And I couldn't believe I did it because the old me wouldn't do it. Okay. Didn't think I had the time. But I took one of those Wednesdays, I took time to go. I always want to snowshoe up this mountain near a 2-hour drive away from my community. And I decided, no, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm not going to talk myself out of it. I went and I did that. It took me 4.5 hours to snowshoe up and up that. It was in springtime. And not only did I have a beautiful experience with the view, the trees, and seeing the moose tracks, but during that time, I did listen to a podcast, a bit of an audible, and I had 3 or 4 great ideas that I immediately the next day, two of them I put into action my business right away. So sometimes giving yourself the oxygen to breathe, to think as a visionary, as a leader, as a founder is vitally important. In fact, it's one of the best things you can do. That 4 hours transformed a challenge I had in my business tremendously just because I had that oxygen to breathe and think. But also, I had an amazing view. I sat 30 minutes on top of a picnic table at the top of that mountain. Don't know how they got it up there, but that's amazing. But I had this incredible experience just being grateful because I believe gratitude, having gratitude for our blessings in our life is vital. And I had that moment to reflect for all the great things that have happened in my life.
That's truly inspiring. Going back a bit, tell us for the engineers and builders in our audience, what's the most exciting or impactful trend that you see in cybersecurity technology?
I think it's infusing AI with cyber. Not only is it a huge risk, but also the tools that we're seeing that are available. One of the tools that we've been using for the last number of years does use AI, but it combines AI with human element. So everything of AI flags anything that's new that's on the computer. AI will investigate it and see if it's an anomaly. It'll get flagged, then a human investigates it. Okay. So, which is really exciting technology because one of the things that it did, it wasn't my client, but it was one of their clients, this vendor, and they found out that this organization had 10 servers and they were in an industry where they needed to keep their servers within North America with that AI and the the human element. They found that one of their servers was in China, and I find that that was troublesome, but it was really exciting that the technology fused with the human was able to discover that.
Mm.
So that's the big thing. And just a side note, just leveraging AI, which I've invested heavily. I'm using AI as a thought leader all the time. I developed a new project in my AI today called AI Brain, and I'm doing my time and energy on it again. But I made a separate chat and I gave it the guidelines, the prompt to so that I can record and audit my time, and it will automatically give me a daily and weekly summary. It's important to self audit.
Amazing. So, Brett, I have one more question for you. So, I normally like to ask this question to all the guests I interview here in this podcast. So, tell us, what does innovation mean to you, and how does it relate to your field? I mean, in the context of cybersecurity and business leadership.
Okay, really good question. I never was asked that before. Innovation is so important to me in so many ways, not only in cybersecurity, but in my own personal and self development and growth. I'm a person who believes in growth. Like even back to before I started this company in 2007, I wrote down my goals. I wrote down 10 goals. By April 1st, 2010, I will own my own successful IT company. Found that goal list a couple of years ago, and I started my company on April 1st. So innovation, recognizing that we always need to be growing and investing in ourselves, investing in our tools and not being stagnated, and knowing that just because we've always done things that way doesn't mean to be true for how we do things in the future. We need to have the mindset of growth and curiosity and exploration, childlike fascination to say, okay, what's true? What can I do? And I have this mindset right now is how can AI help me do this? That's the big trend right now is some people are worried about AI replacing them, but I believe is AI, somebody using AI in your field may replace you if you're not embracing it. So it's really important to find that balance of using AI with cyber and embracing the new tools, not investigating currently, and always asking yourself, what is new out there that I need to embrace and see, and investing in myself, in my own growth, and investing in my team, training my team. I have this mindset that I share all the time that I learned from scouting. Train them, trust them, let them lead. I live by that every day. Train them, trust them, let them lead. That's the mindset I'd love to instill on everyone to really embrace. Because if we equip our team and recognize that we need to innovate with our products, but also innovate our team and ourselves with that mindset, we can go so many fascinating, incredible ways.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great to hear. Finally, Brett, tell us, where can our listeners find you, or go learn more about your work, or just connect with you, or maybe, like you mentioned earlier, message you to get your tips on cybersecurity? And also, you talked about your Instagram earlier. So could you maybe share us the handle and other means users can find you?
Absolutely. If you look for me on Instagram, Brett_Gallant, you'll find me there. And if you search for me on LinkedIn, Brett Gallant, you'll find me there as well. I'll be listed as a cybersecurity podcast host and guest and public speaker. I'd love to connect with each and every one of you. And once again, if you DM me 15 ways, I'll share that document with you. I'd be happy to give that to you. My goal is to inspire people to take action on their cyber risk, because I often say, what's your plan? I want you to have a plan. If I've inspired you to do that, and even if I've inspired you on my own personal transformation, I'd love to know. I believe in sharing that story because a lot of people have inspired me. And if I've inspired you to take action on your own personal transformation, on your health, or if I've inspired you to take action on your cyber, I'd love to hear it. I'm really thankful for this opportunity to speak with you today to help people.
Yeah, Brett, it's been a really wonderful conversation with you, and I'm totally excited to have you on the show today.
It was a great pleasure. It was really fun to have this opportunity to speak with you and your audience. And I hope everyone is having an incredible day. What I know in today's world is a non-negotiable is, if you're storing your passwords, if you log into your computer and you passwords automatically fill because it's cached in your web browser, you're at risk. I want to expand on that for a little bit before I answer your question. What happens is sometimes hackers can be in your system for 120 days. You don't even realize it. And what do you think the first thing they do? They start watching what you're doing. And there's free tools available on the web that even folks like you and me can use to extract the passwords that's stored in your web browser. So boom, 30 seconds, you can get the password. Ezekiel, you and I can do that. Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you and I can do that easily with a password tool that's freely available on the web, they can do it. So what we recommend is using a password manager, and there's so many that are out there. We standardized on one, but there are many great products.